Today, I'm going to be taking a first look at this Week 8 NFL DraftKings main slate. Like I always do here with these videos, I'm going to go position by position, talking about each play that's sticking out to me here early on in the week, and then we'll wrap up the video by putting together a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup. With that being said, let's dive right into this. And two quick notes here before we dive into the quarterbacks. Number one, yes, I did just change my t-shirt there from the intro. Really didn't think that one through. Had the green lettering on my NDSU shirt, and that was not blending in well here with my green screen background. I was pretty much invisible on the video, so I had to do a little swap there. And number two, just wanted to apologize for getting this video out later than I typically do. I was traveling for work all of last week, and for those of you who work in the corporate world, you know when you take a week away from your email, there's always a lot to catch up on once you get back in the office. So I've been swamped here at work all week, and being that hockey is back too, I might be pushing these videos here to Wednesday morning, but it's clearly Wednesday afternoon here, so again, just wanted to apologize for getting this out late. But with that being said, let's dive into these quarterbacks here. And right off the bat here, you can see we have some elite quarterbacks on this slate. Mahomes, Hurts, Lamar, and Tua. All of them got some solid matchups as well, especially these top three here. But of these four, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson early on here as the cash game go-to, and then Tua is more of a tournament play. You know, Miami coming off of that loss last week, they're going to be looking to rebound here, especially at home. And teams really struggle going into Miami. You got the whole situation where the sun is blaring on them the entire game. It's strategical for sure if you're a Miami Dolphin, but I really just like the bounce back spot here for Miami in general. But Lamar here going into Arizona, he balled out last week. I'm hoping that he can keep that going here against one of the league's worst defenses. $8,100, we need about 24.3 DraftKings points in order for him to hit 3x value, and by all means he can do that, especially with his rushing upside. So if I'm spending up for cash game quarterbacks this week, initially here Lamar looks like the go-to guy. And then for Tua, what I'll do here at the end of this video is build a tournament lineup around him. Easy stack with someone like Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, so we can certainly do that. I don't know if I'll be running it back with any New England Patriots, but we'll figure that out here at the end of the video. 6K range is okay, nothing really popping out to me here. The next guy that really stuck out to me was actually Brock Purdy here at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Certainly more of a cash game play here at $5,600. We need about 16.5 DraftKings points in order for him to hit 3x value. He's averaging 18 DraftKings points per game this season. No Deebo Samuel again this week. Certainly does bump him down a little bit for me, but overall I do like the price here, and there's nothing really below him that was popping out to me. Tyrod Taylor has a really tough matchup here against that Jets defense. He did play well last week, and I thought, okay, 21 DraftKings points, maybe a cash game consideration, but I certainly don't love that matchup. Russell Wilson is probably playing from behind in that game against Kansas City. Maybe we can go there, but overall, Purdy was kind of the low-priced option that stuck out to me here early on in the week. Now, moving over here to the running backs, and there is quite a bit to like about this position here this week, as well as the wide receiver position. Right away at the top here, we got Christian McCaffrey, price bump down here to $9,200. Sure, he's a little banged up with that oblique injury right now, but this guy is pretty much game-proof here week in and week out. Yeah, we don't love the 14 DraftKings performances, but that's essentially his floor. We need about 27 DraftKings points in order for him to hit 3x value, but averaging 26 on the season and has a ceiling score close to 50 DraftKings points. I certainly don't mind that matchup at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, some nice high-price options here for sure. Raheem Mostert at home against New England. Tony Pollard, I don't mind that. But Alvin Kamara is really the next guy that's sticking out to me. Volume is not an issue for him, whether it be in the running game or passing game. He's getting a lot of touches week in and week out. You know, obviously I don't bank on him getting 14 targets week in and week out, but you can see here 2 of 4 games he has hit that number. So at $7,300, he's definitely going to be a cash game consideration and a tournament consideration as well. Don't mind Travis Etienne, but I like the passing game a little bit more for the Jags here heading into Pittsburgh. Scrolling down here in the 6K range, Jonathan Taylor is really interesting to me. Now, a tough matchup against that New Orleans run defense for sure, but volume is increasing week in and week out for him. 4 targets last week, 6 the week before that, included in the passing game here. If he gets back to the role that we're accustomed to him being, you know, not necessarily from last year, but the year before that, $6,200 is a really cheap price tag for a guy who could be priced in the 8K range here before we know it. More of a tournament consideration for me for sure, but I do like that price. And then right below there, Isaiah Pacheco. He has been super consistent this year. Definitely someone we can consider in both cash and GPPs. Volume is there, involved in the passing game, and when you're playing on one of the best offenses in the NFL, hard to ignore that, especially in that matchup against the Denver Broncos. Now, dipping into the 5K range here, Breece Hall. I think this is someone we're going to talk about a lot going forward. 22 rush attempts back in week 5, 12 the ensuing week, so you don't love to see the decrease there, but a game they were trailing against the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's involved in the passing game. He's just so explosive. He can score from anywhere on the field, so definitely a tournament play, in my opinion, and we might be able to even consider him in cash here this week. And then scrolling down a little bit from that, next guy got is Kareem Hunt. So no Jerome Ford here this week. He is doubtful. That means that Kareem should see a bulk of the work. He is missing practice early on in the week here. You can see that with a thigh injury, but he was battling that last week as well. Still involved in that offense. So $5,200 stuck out to me as a cheaper priced option, especially for cash. I don't know if the upside is there in tournaments with no Deshaun Watson, but something we'll figure out as the week progresses. And then one more player here down in the 4K range is going to be Darrell Henderson Jr. Again, an interesting situation there for the LA Rams when it comes to their running backs, but it looked like Henderson was the premier back last week, 18 rushing attempts, 2 targets. I know Royce Freeman got his touches as well, but at $4,800, probably someone we're going to be talking about throughout the week. It is a tough matchup against Dallas, but obviously a really nice price tag. Now, folks, before we dive into the wide receivers here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. We got some big things coming here at Slydog Sports. We're going to be adding some new channels going forward, and the faster we can grow this channel, the more content we're going to be able to pump out to you guys going forward. Every like, comment, and sub on these videos truly goes a long way, so help us out if you can. Now let's dive into these wide receivers. And as I mentioned when talking about the running backs, there's a lot to love about the wide receivers this week as well. Right at the top here, we got some elite options with Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, and Puka Nacua. Of those 5, my favorite are going to be Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown. Like I said, I'm going to build a tournament lineup here at the end around Miami. We'll probably do a stack with Tua and Tyreek. It's expensive, but again, we know the upside there. This guy can go for 35 plus DraftKings points in any given matchup. And again, I like that Miami's back home here this week, coming off of a loss. And then A.J. Brown, the numbers, man, if you look at this, not only is the volume great week in and week out, but it's been leading to high DraftKings scores too. A guy who's got a 40-plus DraftKings points ceiling and a good matchup there against that Washington Commanders defense. Now, scrolling down here into the 6K range, I wish he was in the low 6K range or even in the 5K range still, but Adam Thielen is getting the respect he deserves here. Someone who's getting close to 10 targets per week, kind of a nice safety valve for Bryce Young, and that's translating to high DraftKings scores here too. He's finding the end zone. $6,600 is probably right where he should be, to be honest, but someone we need to consider in cash, considering the volume and how he's playing with that rookie quarterback. Now, scrolling down here into the 5K range, there's quite a few plays that I like here. For starters, Christian Kirk continues to be super consistent in this offense, finding the end zone himself. At $5,900, we essentially need about 17.5, 18 DraftKings points in order for him to hit 3x value, and I don't mind that matchup there against Pittsburgh. And then even running it back in that game here with George Pickens, who's usually more of a tournament consideration for me, but I honestly think we need to start talking about him in cash as well. The volume is definitely there. Kenny Pickett loves to throw the ball his way, and he's got that big play potential that we're looking for as well. Again, more on the tournament side of things for sure, but again, volume here, I look at the targets and go, okay, at $5,600, you're going to be on my cash radar this week. I don't want to skip over Jordan Addison here. He's clearly taken over as the #1 wide receiver in this Vikings offense with Justin Jefferson out. He's got a couple more weeks to take advantage of that, and it is a tougher matchup on the road against Green Bay, but again, considering the price, definitely going to be talked about this week. And then for sure, a tournament play that I like here is going to be Terry McLaurin here, the Washington Commanders. $5,300. That Eagles secondary has struggled at times this year. He actually played very well against them back in week 4 with almost 23 DraftKings points. If I'm shooting for 4 or 5x value in my tournament lineups, that's what, 20 to 25 DraftKings points points for him. He's very capable of doing that, so I don't think I can go there in cash quite yet, considering the quarterback situation, but ultimately a tournament consideration at that price. And then one guy here whose price is slowly going up, but still very affordable in the 4K range, is Josh Downs here of the Indianapolis Colts. The rookie wide receiver is making a name for himself. I'd like to see a little more consistent volume here, but ultimately in the 4K range, someone I've been talking about in cash here for the last couple of weeks, and I think we'll be able to go back to him again in week 8. And then we got the tight end position here, and this week we can spend up for the big four if we wanted to, and Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, and George Kittle. Probably going to be tough to do in your cash lineup if you're spending up for McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill, but they're certainly viable, especially in tournaments. Let's get down into some cheap options here, though. Dalton Schultz stuck out to me for the Houston Texans. He scored a touchdown in 3 straight games. You like to see that. The connection with him and CJ Stroud is clearly there, and volume has been decent as well. I don't love the 3-target games, but considering he's priced here in the 3K range, I certainly don't mind that. And then we get into the mid 3K range here. Isn't beautiful. Logan Thomas, Tyler Conklin. Maybe we go with David Njoku here, who's been playing better. I know he's dealing with that injury on his face right now, but ultimately the volume has been decent, especially last week. No Deshaun Watson, or he got banged up right away. 9 targets in that game. So yeah, tight end position, I want to try and go to Dalton Schultz here in my cash lineup. It looks like here early on in the week, but we do have some cheaper options here if we do need to punt. And then we got the defenses here. Again, we can spend up for really any one of these here in tournaments. That's something I will do, but when it comes to my cash lineup, I look for the cheapest option with some nice upside. For me, that's Minnesota here early on in the week, and they've been playing some good football, and I haven't been able to say that as a Minnesota Vikings fan, and well, really over the last 2 years, the defense has been very suspect, but they're creating pressure here as of late. Danielle Hunter's looked really good, and forcing turnovers as well. You can see 6 there in just the last 2 games. So at $2,500, playing against Jordan Love, who hasn't looked great, I definitely don't mind that. All right, everyone. Now let's put together a first look cash lineup here. Again, it's Wednesday, always an early look into this, but I like to kind of get a feel out early in the week as to where I am in cash, and then I kind of make some different decisions as the week progresses. We get new news, weather, injuries, all that good stuff. But we're going to start here at the top. I do like spending up for Lamar Jackson this week, if at all possible. I also want to spend up for Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, and then I'm going to save a little money here and putting in a third running back in Kareem Hunt. $4,000 left over per player. That is not a lot of money. Let's go to the defense here. I'm going to put in the Minnesota Vikings. That gives us some cash back, as well as Dalton Schultz there at $3,900. Gives us a little cash back as well. All right, so $4,600 left over per player. I know that Downs is going to be very affordable here at $4,800. Who else did I like on the wide receiver side of things here? Let's go with Christian Kirk, and then we can even go with George Pickens. We don't have enough money for that, but I'm going to put him in anyway and see what we got left over. So we got Pickens there. $2,500 over budget. Yeah, I wish I could just click submit there, but I can't. So let's go off of Lamar, and that's perfect for Brock Purdy. I honestly don't even mind playing Purdy and McCaffrey in the same lineup. San Francisco usually has a nice team total to where we can play both those guys, just getting exposure to all the points that they score, barring their kicker doesn't have a massive day with 6 field goals, but with the way Moody has been playing for the 49ers, that probably won't be the case. Don't have any money left over here, so overall, I don't mind this at all, especially for an early look. Getting a lot of guys here who are seeing a lot of volume. Now, let's put together a first look tournament lineup here. Been talking about the Miami Dolphins offense quite a bit, so let's build a stack around Tua, and we'll keep it simple here with Tyreek. Expensive for sure, but simple. We know the upside they have week in and week out, especially when playing at home. And then I want to get in 2 running backs here that have some nice upside at decent prices, and Isaiah Pacheco, and let's go Breece Hall. We know that both those guys can go for 25 plus DraftKings points. That's what you need in your tournament lineups. Not a lot of money left over here, only $4,100 per player. So let's just keep it simple with the defense. We'll go back to Minnesota. And then let's put in a tight end in the 3K range. Look, I'd love to pay up for one of those elite tight ends, and I'll probably do that in some of my tournament lineups this week, but we'll keep it simple now and go David Njoku. $4,900 left over per player. That should allow for us to spend up here in the 5K range a little bit. Let's go George Pickens, and I'd love to run it back there with Kirk, but I already did that in my cash lineup. So let's go with F1 there. Terry McLaurin. $3,800 left over. We didn't talk about wide receivers in the 3K range. I typically don't do that here during the first look. But if Jawan Jennings will be getting 9 targets a week with Deebo Samuel out, I'll absolutely take that at that price. So, we're basically doing a Tua stack here with Tyreek Hill and then just filling in the rest of our lineup with guys who should be able to meet 4 or 5x value at their price. I know that Njoku and Jennings here are probably the biggest question marks, but that's why they're priced in the 3K range. If we can get 15 points out of those guys, we're probably sitting pretty nice from that perspective. Outside of that, we're looking at the rest of our lineup of guys who could go for 25, 30 plus DraftKings points. I'm not counting the Minnesota Vikings there, but you guys get the deal. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great week here, everyone, and in the meantime, I'm out of here.